what have been the most significant policy achievements or cultural shifts in recent years that have advanced gender equality and helped to close the pay gap? And you know, sometimes we are locked in the European context, but here we have a very unique presence of ambassadors of Ghana and Mexico. So I would like to give the word to you to start.
Okay, so for Ghana, there have been several policies that have been put in place in order to uplift women and also to look at this gap. So for Ghana, we have the National Gender Policy, which is really working very well for us. We also have the ongoing affirmative action that have been put in place. In the affirmative action, some quota have been given to women in terms of politics. The current government, that is the National Democratic Government, being led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, has said that 30% of his cabinet, 30% of people who will be given ministerial position will be women. So in terms of this has also helped bring women into the limelight. In terms of really paid work, in Ghana, we really do not discriminate in terms of women working and then being paid less as more than men. We are equally paid. But the problem is that there are a lot of things that also hinder the progress of women, especially unpaid care job. Typical in Ghana, when a mother, a father, a husband, or somebody is sick, it's the woman who have to stop whatever they are doing to care for. So in terms of this, in terms of their career, it's set back. So you are not able to really progress in the way that you would want to progress. Apart from that, we are also doing something on the Women Development Bank. So all these things are also helping women. So we want women who are into entrepreneurship are having the opportunity to access money easily, more than this is just for women to access the development bank in order for women to thrive.
It's actually really brilliant to hear that the gender equality is being a topic in Ghana as well. So we see it's a global topic. Yes. So how about Mexico? What is the current situation?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank business and professional women of Czech Republic for organizing this very important event. No, we commend the important work that has been carried by this organization to build a strong community committed to transforming workplaces, but especially making the equal pay a reality. No, first I would like to share with the audience that in the case of Mexico, for the first time since our independence 200 years ago, it's the first time that Mexico has a woman president. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo came into power, and I would like to share with you a phrase that she says that I like it a lot. She says, when I arrived to the presidency, I didn't come along. All women, young, talented women and children and girls, we arrived to the presidency with her. So we are very enthusiastic about the changes that are taking place in Mexico. In 2024, there was a large reform to our constitution, so they integrated the rights. You need to know that Mexico is a very large country. Right now, we are 132 million people. From those 132 million people, 50.8% are women. That includes a 9% of indigenous women, 2% of women, persons with disabilities, and 1% of Afro-descendant people. So, yes, we have discussed a lot. We have, for many years, Mexico was the first country to host the first international conference for women in 1975 of the United Nations. Well, we are committed, we have a diagnosed, but with President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, the first thing that was, well, the constitutional reforms that are very important. Also, it was created a ministry specifically for women, because we think that you need the body to coordinate the different programs, policies, and institutions that deal with women issues. So I think that's those are some of the things. Yes, we still have a large pay gap among women and men. If we talk about formal work, the difference of pay gap is it's more or less 14%. It's a large number, but that number increases depending on the region and the type of job that is done by women. No, so we're still lacking, but there are the reforms. There are mechanisms already in place to try to close the gap. And yes, we have laws. Also, I can tell you, we have reached political equality. If we talk about Congress, in Congress, half of the Congress is made up by women, in the deputies' chambers and also in the senators, but there's still a gap that we need to bridge.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to a female president. And I'm turning to you. Do you think that we will once have a female president as well? If you believe so, please clap your hands.
And you need ministers also.
Yeah, this is
presidents and ministers.
Presidents and ministers. Okay. So now let me turn to Nordic countries, and I would like to start with Norway. Policy achievements, cultural shifts, lessons learned.
Well, thank you very much. And first and foremost, it's a great pleasure being here, and it's so nice to see so many attending. Also good to see that there are quite a few men here. That's very important, and I think I will say a little bit about that. I think I need to look a little bit back into the history when it comes to gender equality in Norway, because we started very much off in the 70s with economic independence, women asking for economic independence, that they should also have their role in work life. So that was a very, very important achievement at that time, getting more women into work life. And with that came another issue, you know, how can you combine family life with work life? So we had politicians at that time being very progressive, putting much emphasis, taking an ownership into the gender equality agenda, and started working on kindergarten development, that you had to have daycare arrangements so that women could combine family life and work life. From that, we saw also a discussion coming up. And we saw that particularly in the 80s and beginning of the 90s, that if we talk about women in work, family life, we also have to talk about men, because this is about family life where also men take responsibility in home care. And we also see from statistics that it's very important that if men spend time with their child the first year they live, they will have a very strong connection and connect to that child for the rest of their life. So we had actually commissions for men's issues coming up in the 90s. We had another commission just 2 years ago where we started, you know, where we look at also the men's role here, that you have to have an integrated approach. So strong political ownership, finding work-life balance. We have had quite progressive legislation in Norway. One can discuss if quota system is good, but I think that the discussion has been, you know, we have had to have quota system in order to break those glass ceilings. And we've seen that in political life. I mean, it's 50-50 in political life in Norway now. It's very, very common to have female politicians. Our first prime minister, she was appointed in 1981, so we have a quite okay track record there. And it's about a culture change. But what will also be important to talk about in the future to come, and we might come back to that issue, that we also see in Norway that we have a quite gendered work life, meaning very sort of gender traditional jobs, and we need to look into that, and that's something that we have put quite a lot of emphasis on in the recent years. We have to start changing, what is male-oriented work life, women-oriented work life, what kind of education do they take? We have to look into that, because then I think we can also target some of the challenges we face in terms of equal pay. Because in Norway, we're probably quite similar to the EU countries in terms of the equal pay, that there is a difference. The difference is not, first and foremost, if you look at people in full-time work, but it is because more women are taking part-time work, which gives this difference. Meaning they take part-time work and they will not get into full-time work, into the same development in terms of salary like men. With the male-dominated work, some areas where men are working more, you see that they have a higher salary. So we need to also get women into those positions. It could be, for example, technological, STEM-related work life, etc. So that's an issue, and we need to continue to look at also at parenthood, because we tend to see that we have a father quota in Norway, 10 weeks of paternity leave. If you have to take those 10 weeks, you can't give it to your wife. Then mother has a share, and then you have a share that you divide between yourself. But we see the tendency that men go back into the work life and women take that share, because men often have positions with higher pay. So it's better for family that the man is working. So that's where we see that you see the segregation, and you see that there is a division in the pay gap that influences how the family organizes themselves. So I think I'll stop there.
Yeah. I think you touched upon one of the key points that resonate here as well. So, but I'll pass the word to the ambassador of Finland. Your views, developments in the country which you observe.
Thank you very much. Let me first say that I feel very equal, but also very privileged to be here with my female ambassador colleagues. And let me also say that I was very much inspired by the discussion or the presentations that started this event. In particular, the CEO, Ms. Buchova's words where she was describing ambassadors of change. I believe we are all ambassadors of change, we that sit here. Let me start by telling something of Finnish history. So Finland was the first country in the whole world that introduced equal political rights to men and women. We were not the first country to introduce voting right. That was New Zealand. But in Finland, the women were also allowed to be candidates in the political system. The Finnish equality is based on trust. That's the most important thing in the Finnish society. The trust among Finnish nationals is still very high. Even the trust for politicians is high. But we also trust our neighbors, so also we trust men and women in the society. It's not only trust, it is also democracy, it is diversity. We have heard a lot about diversity. It's not only men and women, and it is also minority rights that are very, very important, and human rights, of course. Finland has been happiest nation for 9 times in a row, and I am very sure that the equality plays a role. So if we weren't equal country, I suppose half of the population would not be that happy at all. We do score quite well as it comes to the equality in the society as well. We have had a long tradition promoting equality, so it's not only the goodwill, but we also need legislation. And in some spheres of the society, you also need quotas to guarantee that the women have representation. In elections, there are no quotas, but Finns tend to vote almost half of the politicians that are voted in parliament and in municipal councils are women. But in some structures, you still need the quotas. And if you deviate from the quotas, if you have a delegation consisting only of men or a delegation consisting of only women, you have to motivate why is it this way. And I do remember when I was a young diplomat at the legal department, I was writing 2 PMs on 2 delegations. One was dealing with the foreign and security policy, and the other was dealing delegation to a United Nations meeting on social security issues. And yes, you might guess that the delegates were only men and women. And I'm sure that you also guessed that the security policy delegation consisted only of women, and the social security delegation consisted only of men.
Wow.
So, as my Mexican colleague was telling about the president, so we used to have one time a situation where president, prime minister, and speaker of the parliament was woman in Finland. We've had 3 female prime ministers, and now my foreign minister is also woman. During the time when all the 3 top positions were manned by women, there was a story that boys in elementary school were asking, is it possible for a man to become president of Finland? So, let me stop here and motivate my colleagues for excellent discussion here. And Gabriela, if I understood correctly, the best panelist will be awarded this red Lamborghini, or did I understand something wrong?
Absolutely. Let's have a picture there after we finish this panel. You opened actually one super interesting topic, and it's quotas. So we heard of quotas in Ghana and hear from you. I must say that in our country it always has a kind of a negative context, or at least it seems to me. What is the stance of Estonia towards quotas?
Thank you, Gabriela. Is it on? No. Is it on now?
You can get a regular microphone. Sorry for this.
If it will be double, then tell me, please. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Super happy to see so many people. But I wanted to also start with thanking men, because it's, this is the subject we should not be talking among just women. Nothing will change. And that's why I reserved a honorary seat for you, Pasi, thank you. By actually making a point that in Estonia it is more or less like not okay to have any panel on any conference which is just men or just women. It will just not, it will be not okay. So much has been said, so I'm not going to repeat, just to add a couple of points. For me, gender gap in pay and all the discrimination, it really starts at home. So this is something which we should all reflect deep in ourselves, and this starts from moms and dads at home. So this is super important. Then secondly, of course, Estonia has already been mentioned, so I absolutely need to come back on that, being just the announced super worst in Europe. So here I am. You know, I know there is, of course, statistics, and then there is statistics. So my numbers that I just looked up is that Estonia is like second worst now. You know, I'm not going to. It's not Czech Republic, but one of my neighbors. You know, but it doesn't say anything. I mean, we have done it super bad past years, and what we have seen over 10 last years, that this is improving. Our statistics is saying that it is around 13% now, still bad. But okay, what can we do about that? I mean, the reasons we talked about earlier already, I mean, they are very similar in many countries. But I want to comment also one of the reasons what we heard from the representative of the bank ING. She was saying that women are not knocking at my door. And I think this is one of the problems. This is one reason we have identified in Estonia as the bottom line reason of the pay gap. And I'm not saying here that we expect people to start knocking at the doors. I mean, it's a wrong attitude. We need transparency. So transparency is the word I want to bring at this talk here. And there are lots of laws and regulations now in Estonia where you can really see what is everybody's salary in organization. So you feel, you know, clear about what is happening with your colleague next door, and this is mandatory on each state institutions. It's absolutely by the law, so you can go basically on each ministry's website, and you will see what is colleague X or Z having a salary. But it's the same in the private sector, growingly so. So this is an important angle. Then maternity leave has been mentioned here, and we are really working on this hard now because men are more and more taking this parental leave. Our statistics is showing that some 30% of dads are doing it now, which is great, but also it will, in a longer term, has an effect on the gap of the salaries, because of course moms staying at home, and we have super generous actually maternity leave. By the law, a mom can stay 3 years at home, and out of this 1.5 years is with the salary, which is the average salary what you had before. So imagine if you are staying in one row together with like 2 kids and then come back, and then the trick starts, because of course life has moved on, and the salaries have moved on, but by the law you are getting the position you had before with the salary like 3 years back or something. So there are lots of tricks. And just to have a small silver lining, our previous president and prime minister together were also ladies in Estonia, so super happy about that as well. Thanks.
Perfect. Ambassador Tuominen, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I wanted to add on the salary, public status of salary that Jana was describing in Estonia, and indeed you can find all the public servants' salaries in the internet. In Finland, and I presume in Norway, we have a system where you can also check everybody's salary, because the taxation information is public. In November, everybody who earns now more than 120,000 euros will find their names in newspapers, because the tax authority informs automatically all the medias of the income. And if you are then more curious of your colleagues' earnings, you can go to the tax office and all the information on salaries is public, so you can always find the taxation information which is available always.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And with this point, let me mention one name which is very important for us, but probably for the whole European Union. And it's Lenka Simerská, who sits here in the first row, because she was the one driving the Equal Pay Directive on the level of the European Union. So all credits to her, and please clap your hands so that we appreciate Lenka for doing this job. And as well, I have one topic which was mentioned as well, you know, appreciation of all men who came to this conference. Could you please stand up for a moment? All men stand up.
Bravo.
And yes, you receive appreciation for being with us today and listening to this.
Gabriela, can I just add something regarding the quotas?
Yes.
No, because I think it's, well, as Mexico sees it, Mexico has signed and ratified the Convention for the Elimination Against Discrimination of Women of the United Nations. And I guess most of the countries that we are present here, we have signed and ratified that instrument. And there's a directive from this committee regarding affirmative action. And I think that you have to consider it as something positive. The importance of having quotas for affirmative action is you have to set an objective. These are temporary measures. It's not that they will stay there, but they are very positive to attain the goals. I can give you the example of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico. Well, I want to share that Mexico, as a developing country, is one of the first countries that have settled a feminist foreign policy, and that's very important. We have followed the example of Nordic countries and Canada and others that have set that example, but in the case, I give you the example in the case of the ministry, there's only 30% of ambassadors are women. So what they are doing in the ministry, in the different ranks, we are open much opportunities for women, because unless you establish these quotas that they shouldn't be negative, no, if they are positive, they are to attain a goal, and they are temporary, but they are very important. And yes, I see that here in Czechia, every time you ask about the quotas, it's very negative. No, but there's a directive. I ask people to study, to look for the recommendations of international experts, because they really do have a positive effect.
Yes, Ambassador, you wanted to comment.
I'm very happy that you mentioned this about quota, because this is also something we see that is often a negative connotation to that. In Norway, when we political parties back in the 80s, they started with quotas, self-imposed quotas. Actually, today they don't need them, but they were very, very important to at that time to normalize women's participation in politics. So, and then in the very early 90s, we introduced also quota for boards of public and public-private companies. And one could say, is that good? You know, you should be a part of a board based on your qualification. But it was very important to bring them in, because what we saw was that men tended to hire men. And then when you get women into the boardrooms, it becomes a normalization, and then you don't need to think about it anymore, because it's obvious you don't think about gender when you hire people. So I think it's also to see that it is actually a good tool to bring women in. And in addition to that, what was also said here earlier this morning was that women tend to not knock on doors. And this is just actually not about salary necessarily, but what we see, and I still see in the Foreign Service, is that when women, when we have vacancies for ambassadorial positions, we still see that 2/3 of those applying are men and 1/3 are women. So women needs kind to be encouraged, because I think sometimes we are a little bit, oh, I don't think I'm good enough, I'm not talented enough, I don't have enough experience. Men are a little bit more out there and saying, I'm good enough. So you need to have some kind of positive affirmative actions to get actually women out there and knock on that door and apply for that position. So, and that's what our Confederation of Enterprises in Norway say: demystify leader positions. It's nothing mythical or mystical. You can do it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Before we turn into or go into the details of AI and the impact of AI, I just wanted to tell you that I have a tablet on the desk, and if you have some questions for the ambassadors, please put them into the application so that we can ask. But now, going to the AI, so how are your governments approaching ethical considerations and potential biases of AI? We know that, it's been said that AI is racist and so on, but especially in the areas of hiring or career development, I believe this is a super interesting topic and completely new in this agenda. Estonia is, in my eyes, the digital leader. So if we can start with you.
Thank you. Yes, thanks a lot. It is true that AI is all around us, and it is changing everything. For example, very recently we had a study which said that in an Estonian working market in 10 years, 2/3 of the jobs will be affected, in the sense that they will require a knowledge and usage of AI. So this is important to realize at this point. But your specific question, how do we use AI also? I'll give you one good example. We have started the usage of AI actually for screening of all job applications and job announcements, and this is done by our Gender Equality Commissioner. They have developed a tool. And why? The thing is very simple. I mean, it's always easier to prevent all sorts of misfunctions and all sorts of bad habits, let's put it very simple, because if you announce a job position and you say, I need a woman of this age and etc., no kids or whatever, it can be very, very problematic. So there is the tool now in Estonia that actually automatically scans all the applications and all the announcements, and it's not that something automatically will happen, but it is highlighting. It is like a tool, for example, for all these possible difficult outcomes, which will be later way much more complicated. Yeah.
That's super interesting. So turning to Ghana now, discrimination in the labor market caused by AI. Is it on your agenda as well?
Thank you. So, in terms of Ghana and Africa, our technology is not really that high as in Europe. So what we are doing is that we are training our youth in vocational skills. We have an agency that employs the Youth Employment Agency. They are training the youth in coding programs that will help them to understand the AI. We are using all these methods so that people are not being relegated to the background. So we are training our youth now to be really prepared in terms of the AI, so that they are able to use the AI when it's really have to come in place. So for now, the youth are into AI. We are also cautiously asking women to go into the STEM program, that is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So we are really cautiously asking women to get into these programs. especially the girls. So girls have scholarships to go into male-dominated enclaves in terms of these jobs, just to also prepare women so that we are also not relegated to the background. So at the end of the day, if we have to use AI, it will not be that we are not employing women, but because women don't have the skills. So we want to prepare women far before we start even with the AI. So with the STEM, the young girls are doing well. In terms of our education, a lot of schools, especially in the small communities, have been giving STEM schools. So they have projects that have the robot, that have everything, that are training people in terms of using the robot to come out to the traffic light, using robots in terms of even sending to buy things. So these things are really done by girls. So we believe that when we even roll out AI, women and girls will not be relegated to the background. And also to add up, just as we also said, Ghana, we have the vice president to be a female. So that's one, okay, for years we have never had a vice president or a president to be a female. So with her being the vice president, she's also championing, and she is a professor. So she's also championing in terms of women to come up. And she is the one who also helped in setting up the Women's Bank. So once we have the Women's Development Bank, women entrepreneurs are able to get access to money and to also do a lot of things. So they can decide to learn in terms of the AI, they can decide to empower themselves. So when women are really empowered, they are also in a way able to support their children. And if their children are able to go to school, at the end of the day, we see the empowerment of women at a high level.
Yeah, I must say it's very thoughtful, you know, to embed STEM education into the system. How about your countries and STEM education and the learning on AI? Do you already have it in the programs? Mexico, can we start with you?
Well, yes. Before I answer your question, Gabriela, I want to reflect a little bit about this year's theme of the conference, no? That it says AI is changing the future, we are changing the system. Because I think that this reminds us that technological transformation and structural changes must go hand in hand. Artificial intelligence is not only reshaping economies, but also redefining how opportunities are created, distributed, and valued. This also highlights the challenge that it's not only the connectivity. In the case of Mexico, 80% of the population have access to internet, but also the need to have, as Snøfrid was saying, have confidence, have skills, and the most important, to eradicate the structural barriers and the gender gaps. If we want really artificial intelligence to be a driver for equal opportunity, we must invest really to close these gaps. In the case of Mexico, we are worried because what we see is that the data can be biased. And if you are introducing biased data to the systems, that it's not neutral. Yeah. This can create additional problems, for example, for the hiring processes, for access to credit, and even visibility in the digital spaces. There's another phenomena that it's called the manosphere, that it's a misogynist discourse that it's taking place, that you have to be very aware about that. So Mexico is committed to eradicate the cyber crimes that can happen in artificial intelligence. We are trying to have more objective data. And yes, as in Ghana, as in other countries, we are trying to hire more people in the STEM fields and in the AI workforce, because the lack of women in these areas, it's very important. So we are changing the curricula of the schools since kindergarten. No, it was not that you have to wait until you go to university, because we want to be this part of everybody's life. And yes, we have, there are challenges, but I think we have the tools to face them.
Absolutely. Now going to Estonia, if I may, because I heard of some digital solutions your country developed in education. If you could elaborate a little bit on this.
Yes, thank you. I think nearly everybody has heard, of course, that we tend to call our country Estonia, and there is history to it, because already in the mid-1990s there was this decision made that we will bring internet usage and computers to all of our schools. So now we have made a new decision. Last year we have decided in education that we are going to have AI Leap, and this is the name of the program. So I don't know, I will probably need some half an hour to explain it, but I'll do it in a couple of sentences. So in short, we have decided that actually everybody is anyway using it. You know, if you look at the youth these days, even the statistics says that in the high schools some 90% of students are using it anyway. So let's try to somehow unify and help everybody to use it equally. So one point is not to have anybody left behind. So what we do is that we have first stage, we have now arranged the usage of ChatGPT and also some cooperation with Google and using their public platforms. And we have adapted it to our needs, so really educative purposes. So as the first stage, we are teaching now our teachers and provided really paid licenses, so it's not like, you know, the very low basis of use of ChatGPT, but a paid version. And we have adapted it the way that now when students in the high school are starting to use it, it's not that it gives you all the answers. I mean, this wouldn't help. So the intelligence is taught to basically help you to learn, not giving the answers, but really guiding you through. And that has been implemented now since January of this year in the high schools in Estonia. And basically we have moved to the second phase of the program already. And I'm happy to share that it's like 99% of all our schools are using it now. Immediately there will be a question about the budget, so let me tell it out loud. We have calculated 200 euros per student, which includes having the paid license, but also the training. So yeah, it's not cheap, but it is working. And the plan ahead is that in the third year, we will see if we can use also it in the lower grades at the school, but this is not yet decided. So the point here is, as I said earlier, that nearly everybody anyway need to start using it. So trying to help everybody out and to give the tools. And I really want to stress that it is not about teaching technology. It is really about equal opportunities here, but also creating, like, helping out the students to have the very critical thinking. This is very important for us. Thank you.
This sounds really amazing, and I would love to have the hands-on experience. Yeah, Ambassador Emterud, you wanted to comment?
Yes, so much have been said here, and I think it's very important what Jana is saying about this critical thinking, that when we, and it boils down again to education and starting from a very early age, because it's about critical thinking, it is about ethical principles, it's about transparency, and not at least about the inclusion, to bring everybody on board. And of course that's a discussion you have nowadays, you know, what about, you know, the different age groups, and this is where I think we will see much more of this lifelong learning also. In my ministry, we also see that we have to use AI now and learn these digital platforms, regardless of whether we are 25 or we're 55. So we just need to get into it. But then again, coming back to education and the issue about gender equality, this is also something we put quite a lot of focus on now in Norway, to kind of break down these sort of gendered educational choices, because we still see this tendency, women may be leaning more to healthcare, men to technological education. So we have several initiatives in Norway, national initiatives, where we want to bring girls more into the STEM area, get them into technology, get more female professors who work with this field. You need to also have role models here. And at the same time, we also have to think that we will also see a situation in our countries where we need to have people in healthcare. Yes, AI can do probably quite a lot, but we need hands there too. And that is also why we also have to think integrated the other way, that now we also have national initiatives in Norway to bring also boys more to those educations that women have focused on before, you know, for example, healthcare. So now we also have initiatives with getting boys into healthcare education, because we also will need more hands in the future in terms of the development.
Yeah, Ambassador Tuominen.
Thank you very much. I think my colleagues have had such great comments that it's hard for me to add anything. But well, I wouldn't be ambassador if I wouldn't be able to say add something. I have to admit that I am AI optimist. I believe that there is huge potential in AI and using it. However, as pointed out by my Estonian colleague Jana, also in Finland, the non-discrimination ombudsman has been highlighting the algorithmic discrimination risks and have pointed out that it's very important to take this into account. Letting AI to do these decisions is a fantastic thing. But if you let it do, you really have to have critical thinking. You have to know what it is doing. So blindly believing what AI suggests is not a good idea. Then we face the risk that we will have as my Mexican colleague pointed out, misogynic approach, which AI takes the information from Russian propaganda and misinformation. So media literacy, critical thinking is very important when we rely on AI now and even more in the future.
Absolutely. Ambassadors, our time is up. I am very sorry, because I could sit here with you for another 40 minutes and discuss and elaborate on the topics even more. So thank you very much for joining us today. I consider this discussion to be very thought-provoking, and I'm really looking forward to the time when we will call our country e-Česko. Yeah, it's going to come, sure, but definitely future is in our hands. So thank you very much. Thank you.